off to a great start. Hold on, Quacker's in the green room. Let me get him in here. There he is. Hello and welcome to the Alumni House podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm the Quacker.
All right, so this is where my brain is at. If you grew up in the 90s, you remember the early 90s commercials. This is your brain. And then crack the egg, put it in the pan. This is your brain on drugs. This is what I feel like because as the intro video is ending, instead of turning on our cameras, I almost just ended the whole broadcast. So it is what it is. All right, Quackers. So the season's over. I want us to resist the temptation to talk about how fast it went and how sad we are that it left, because I don't know if I can handle it emotionally. Because it did go fast, and I am sad it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
we've got two things on the agenda. No news of great note. We're going to talk a little bit about the game. We're going to talk a little bit about Miami and Indiana's seasons. And then I've got a list of categories, best in class, if you will, that I'm going to read off to Quacker. First time he's hearing these. I have not made my picks on these either. I literally just wrote down the categories. So we're going to have like 30 seconds per category to get on ESPN or Google or whatever and decide who our winner is. I felt like that'd be more fun than us having a lot of thought, because the reality is Quacker and I talk about this sport a lot together, cover the sport together. If we had too much time to decide, we would probably have almost the exact same list. So I thought it'd be more fun to do this way. Also, I forgot to send him the list, and so it worked out this way. So that's, happy accident, as it were. All right, so we had a national championship game on Monday that I thought was going to be a slaughter. I think a lot of people thought it was, and it wasn't. And that I had a bunch of friends over to the house to watch it, and when Indiana blocked the punt and scored the touchdown, I looked at him and said, that's the turning point. This game's over. And it wasn't. It was still a fight. So kudos to Miami for being the team that I never thought they were. But they proved to be, I think, legitimately, I don't know if I'd say one of the best two teams in the country, like if you're talking about from the length of the entire season, but certainly one of the hottest two teams at the end of the year, which I think is saying more than it probably sounds like, because that matters, I think, as much as anything else. If you qualify for the playoffs and you're the hottest team in the country, well, that matters more than being Texas A&M, who lost in the first round, but had a consistently solid season, right? So, all right. So Indiana wins their first ever national championship. Indiana is what I just said, and I'll say it again. Indiana Hoosiers win their first ever national championship, 27-21 over the Miami Hurricanes. Before we get into the weeds, Quacker, overall thoughts when you hear me say the Indiana Hoosiers are the football national champions?
What reality are we living in? It's definitely a sign of the era of football we're in. It's portal and rev share and NIL. Of course, they made a great hire with Kurt Signetti. They were showing the like the win percentage, like in the wins and losses of Indiana before Signetti, like from the entire history of the program in like the last 2 years, and like the win percentage was like a 491, and like since they've hired him, it's like a 9, like
Yeah, he's only lost twice, right?
90% clip, yeah, so not a bad. Not a bad start to his run there in Bloomington, and I didn't realize this until the lead up to the national championship, but they have the largest alumni base in the country, which is very surprising.
We were talking about it during the national championship, so I didn't have any idea that they had any famous alumni, and then obviously we saw Mark Cuban in the crowd, And I was like, what the heck is Mark Cuban doing there? And my buddy's like, oh, he's like a really prominent alumni. And then they started talking about it, and I was like, well, he's got to be their most famous. And one of our friends goes, I don't know, Joe Buck's an alumni there. And our other friend goes, you think Joe Buck's more famous than Mark Cuban? And we were all like, no. But it was just funny because it was like Joe Buck or Mark Cuban. So anyway, I thought that was funny. Listen, here's the cool thing though. As fun as it is to say like Indiana won it, and as cool of a story as it is, and as much as we joke, like there will be a movie about this, I'm sure. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
This isn't a cute story. Indiana was the best team in the country. They didn't back into it. They didn't win it because some team got injured or some team did this. Indiana was the best team in the country, deserved to win the national championship, and they did. That's what I think is crazy. Like it's not like, they got. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like there are stories all over the place in sports where like, the big juggernaut team will have somebody get injured and then you have a huge upset, right? And it's still a cool story, but this is more like the 1980 Olympics where like Russia was still, the USSR was still the USSR and USA just beat them. Because the USA proved to have a game that could beat them, right? But Indiana, they were just the best. They were just the best, and that's what I really want people to understand, I say understand. Half our listeners know more than you and I do about this stuff. What I mean is, I want to reiterate and just emphasize that this isn't a cute story. It's an amazing story, but it's a story that they earned, and congratulations to Indiana because they made everybody look silly, and the only team they didn't make look silly is a team that I just quite frankly didn't think had it, So
yeah, in watching that fight, that game, it felt like a heavyweight fight. I mean, it literally, what came to mind was a fight that took place long before I was ever born, but Ali Frazier, just the heavyweight blows going back and forth. Like every time you think, okay, this could be the knockout, it wasn't. Like both teams were taking the other team's best shot, and they just was like, all right, let's see what we can do here.
Different, right? Because Miami had 2 or 3 really long drives where they were just methodical and just went down the field and scored. And Indiana took advantage of some big plays. But typically, what you see in that is the big play team eventually gives way to the team that's sustaining it, right? But interestingly enough, one of my buddies who made the comment about Joe Buck said on the last drive, he said, well, Carson Beck's due for an interception, so I bet you he's going to throw one. And sure enough, about 4 plays later, he threw that pick that ended the game. But that's what it was. Is Indiana won on big plays? But I don't mean that to discredit them. I mean that I think they had 8 or 9 block punts on the season, which by the way is an average of a block punt every other game. And if you were not paying attention, that's very good. So they used what their identity was, right? And so it's not like, I don't want to sound like they won on big plays to say they lucked into it. I think they create big plays on offense, defense, special teams, and that's part of how they win. And they showed that, to the last play of the season. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, Mendoza with his touchdown run is probably one of the plays that will be talked about for forever.
Dude, I don't think I've ever had a play where I felt more emotions in about 4 seconds. So literally, not hiding it here. I grew up in the state of Florida. I hate the University of Miami in terms of athletics. So I wanted them to lose. Plus, I thought the Indiana story was cool, and I wanted to see Cignetti smile, which he did at the end. But And Mendoza seems cool, which, by the way, I don't know if you caught this, made me feel super old. So,
The Mr. Tebow.
oh my gosh, dude, he was like, yeah, I talked to Mr. Tebow, and Van Pelt's like, you can call him Tim.
Tim. Yeah.
And I'm just
Made
like,
you feel old.
yeah, well,
I bet it made Tim feel old too.
Well, it did. Did you see the tweet? He was like, come on, man, Mr. Tebow's my dad. But the reason I say it made me feel old is because Tim Tebow and I are like 1 year apart, and so he was in college when I was in college, and so when he said Mr. Tebow, I was like, wait a second, he's talking about people who are my age. I don't like that. So
at least he's being respectful, you know.
No,
I mean,
he is. Well, and that's one of the things that I think super likable about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I say all that to say, like, I like Mendoza and I wanted them to win, and it was a 4th down, and so he starts to run the ball, and I'm like, oh, he's about to get killed, and then he made this one move, and I'm like, oh, dude, he's huge, like, because like when he moved and you saw him, I was like, I didn't realize how big he is, and then the next thing I know, he gets the first down, and I'm like, wait, did he just score? Like, literally, my whole brain like broke in that little 4-second sequence.
Yeah, I mean, when the first time he got hit, it kind of picked him up and launched him a little bit because like he was in the air, and then he hit the ground and kept going. And he dove, and they were saying, I remember this hit from last year when he was at Cal. I didn't realize it was the same player, but the last player that hit him on that touchdown run was the same player that knocked him out of the game last year with the targeting call that wasn't called targeting. In that Cal Miami game last year.
Well, there's also a targeting call that didn't get called this year in the Indiana Miami game.
Yeah,
against
bloody his lip. Yeah. But I thought that was a unique set of circumstances there, that it was the same player on both of those hits. And you saw the ball kind of coming out of his hand, but he was already touchdown, but he re-secured it before he went to the ground.
Yeah,
just kind of showed his athleticism and strength there.
And ESPN, I think they typically do a great job of football coverage, especially with big games. They did not do a very good job of showing replays in this game. Like they didn't show a lot of like timely replays. They did on this one, however, because I remember thinking, oh, I want to see that again. And the very first replay they show, like, he had firm control across the goal line. And you're like, okay, easy touchdown. All right, so let's talk about Miami a little bit. So a few people, not a lot, it wasn't a huge amount of noise, but a few people 3 weeks into the season were saying Miami was the best team in the country. I don't think you and I ever drank that Kool-Aid, but then they sort of, the wheels almost completely fell off. And I think we thought they did completely fall off. But somewhere towards the last third of the season, they found this formula where they basically they use Carson Beck in a very limited capacity with certain throws. They don't ask him to do too much. They don't ask him to do too little, and they win games. And that took them all the way to the title. And I want to say something. First of all, congratulations to Miami for doing that, or for the season, because I'm going to be honest with you. I thought halfway through the season there was a world where they could lose 5 or 6 games. But also, I'm not alone in this, but I will freely admit that I have accused Mario Cristobal of being a great January to August coach and just an okay in-season and game day coach. Well, I think he proved a lot of people wrong there, because he made coaching decisions and adjustments throughout the season and in the games to get them to that position, and lost a game, a national championship game, by a possession. And let's be honest, this Indiana team is going to be, I think we may have talked about this before, they're going to be a top 10, top 15 all-time best team. Like, they're not, this isn't just like they just won the national championship, it's over. Like, this is going to be a team that's talked about for a long time. They're going to be mentioned with 19 LSU. They're going to be mentioned with 01 Miami, 95 Nebraska. I'm not saying they're better or as good as any of them, but they're going to be in those conversations. That's the kind of good team that we just saw. So Miami, though, never went away, even in the last game. So for all my disdain for their athletic programs. And I say it like that because they have a wonderful music program. They have a wonderful marine biology and oceanography program. And in fact, their oceanography program has probably kept this country from losing billions more dollars and a lot more lives in hurricanes. So I don't hate all of the University of Miami, but there is part of it that I really don't like, and that's their athletics. So for all of my disdain for that, congratulations to you guys because you found a winning formula. Cristobal, for the whole thing, man. Cristobal, Taylor, what he did, even Michael Irvin just being a cheerleader, dude. Like, all of it. Like, this was a traditional Miami football team, and that they had a character of their own. Like, this team had an identity on and off the field, and it was a better identity than the, late 80s controversial the convicts teams, right? Like so I think Miami has a lot to be proud of and a lot to hold their head high on, and I honestly think that Cristobal showed, like, let's be honest, man, Beck's an incredible talent. Beck's gonna probably get drafted fairly high as a result of there not being a whole lot of quarterbacks available. Fairly high relative to the quarterbacks. I don't know that he's going to get drafted high, but I mean, I think he'll be a top 5 quarterback. I think that what Cristobal showed is he's building something there, because I think Miami could easily come back next year and be, another preseason top 5 team that's top 5 at the end of the year, which I think is pretty cool. So,
yeah, and that I saw a tweet. It's like, it said Beck had not had it turnover the entire game. He talked to Ray Lewis for 5 seconds for going on the field for his last drive and throws a career-ending interception. And I was like, that's such a funny take right there. But I mean, he actually played fairly well in that game. I mean, he had a lot more passing yards than Mendoza. He had a passing touchdown, and he just had one missed read is all he had. I mean, he missed a safety, and in a high pressure situation like that.
Yeah, but it was a pretty bad miss though. Like it was.
It was. I mean, but you had Herb Street was saying that off his initial read, I guess he thought that the safety was gonna kind of go the other way, and then he just drifted up, and then that cornerback knew he had over the top help, so he was able to make a play on the ball.
Yeah,
but
well, this goes back to what I said. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's kind of been Beck's one Achilles. Or his one Achilles heel, or his kryptonite is he will turn the ball over. And sometimes he does it in spades.
Well, I think he has the Jameis Winston thing, right? Where it's not like Brett Favre where he just throws it up and it either works or it doesn't, right? Like, I think Beck, it's not even so much turning the ball over. It's like his brain turns off sometimes. It's like he'll read the defense excellent, and then there are just certain moments, like you and I saw it in the Florida game last year. He threw 2 straight picks, and they were not good picks. Like they were like, what were you looking at? Like one of them threw it straight to a linebacker.
There was 14 guys around that receiver, and he just threw it there anyway. And
and we're not talking about like a play where you're trying to draw pass interference. So we're talking about like over the middle, like trailing receiver type plays that you just don't throw. So, but here's the thing, though, and you said this, and I don't want to disparage Beck, but I think this is worth stating. You said he had a whole lot more passing yards than Mendoza, but the thing is, though, that's a little bit out of context, because how many of those receiving or passing yards were after the catch? A lot of them, because he was throwing. Most of his passes were 6 to 12 yard attempts. I'm not disparaging that. I think that's a good plan. I think that's how they started winning with Beck, was using the intermediate and the short throws. But I also think that much of his passing yards were padded by that. But excuse me, sorry, it's late and it's cold. Yeah. So, but anyway, look, it was a great game. Capped another college football season. I want us to talk about superlatives. I want to have one. I don't even know that it'll be a discussion so much as it'll be, I'll make a statement and you can kind of rebut or say your opinion on it, before we get into the superlatives. But I want to say that I'm concerned about, and this isn't new. If you've been listening to us, you know how we feel about this at large. But Quacker and I's, where we land on it is a little different. I am concerned about where college football is going. The last 2 seasons, I have found myself less invested and entertained by the college football product and more bored and uninterested, because the games there are so many fewer great games. There are a lot more commercials, and I mean what I mean. I don't want to sound like the old head, right? But what I mean is, I remember 15 years ago when college football was in its golden age, when you could sit down and watch college football and legitimately be entertained for 14 hours any given Saturday. Mm-hmm. Now you're entertained for a few hours a Saturday. Refereeing or the officiating seems like it's gotten a little worse. There's much less game time than there used to be. That was one of the things that separated college football in a lot of positive ways from the NFL, because of all of the clock rules that they've started to shift, to adjust to be more like the NFL. You used to get, I think in the NFL you get like 6 minutes of live game action in a 60-minute game. And you're probably getting close to that in college football, but it used to be more like 25 minutes of live action. Because the clock stopped every time there was a first down till the change reset. The clock stopped every time you stepped out of bounds. Clock stopped with every incomplete pass. Now the clock only stops with an incomplete pass or a timeout. And
yeah, until the 2 minutes. Yeah,
right. But I mean, which is what, like 90% of the game. So I am concerned that college football is, I don't know if it's dying, because I do acknowledge that I'm not the generation that they're building the next 20 years of college football for, because they're building it for the young folks, and I get that. I don't know if it's dying, but I'm concerned that for people our age, people older than us, who have been enthusiastic for college football their whole lives, I feel like it is going to continue to become more and more uninteresting to a majority of our generation. Not that every person will become uninterested, but every single year over the past 15 years, I have found myself looking forward to NFL games more and more each year than college football games, to the point to where it used to be I liked NFL down here, I liked college football here, and the pendulum has kind of been swinging, and now it's like this, where NFL, college football, but 2 years ago it was like this, So it's gone a long ways in the last couple of years. But
Yeah.
and that's just me. Like I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm concerned about that because I've noticed myself looking back on the season and I'm like, I'm not nearly as upset that college football's. This is probably the least upset that I've been that college football's gone in a long, long, long time. And I think NIL plays a role. I think transfer portal plays a role, but I think the biggest issues are the adjusting game rules to add advertisement dollars, and things like that are it's just not winning any hearts and minds, and I'm
Yeah.
I think I'm a good example of someone raised in the South who loved college football. Used to be, dude, don't you ask me to do anything on a fall Saturday. I think I'm okay with you asking me to do something on a fall Saturday now. I don't feel like I'm missing that much, and it's sad. So I still love the game, love the sport, love college football. Will support my team till the day I die, but I'm not. I don't mean to sound negative. I'm not as heartbroken about the season being behind us as normally I am. More heartbroken about, the NFL season being over and not having the fall,
Right.
because the time of year I'm more upset about, but anyway, I'll let you respond to that and then we'll move to our superlatives.
Yeah. I mean, I still find it entertaining, but I also, there are some things about college football that it's frustrating me more and more. The lack of loyalty from players, not the coaches, but to the institutions that they decided to go to. Like this transfer portal, to me, it feels like it has killed what made college football special. And I understand the desire to open up a way for players to move. But this transferring every year because you're not happy with the situation, instead of sticking it out and working to get better, or seeing what you can do to improve the situation, instead of just being soft and moving on, or well, I can get more money here. We have it's become too much about the dollar, right? I mean, like you're talking about, like they're trying to squeeze out every advertised dollar they can get. They're trying to squeeze out every nickel of the fans they can get, and you've got 18-year-olds making more money than people on Wall Street. Um, it's one of those things where it does take away from some of the enjoyment that I've always had from college football.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know at the end of the football season, is my favorite player still gonna be my team next year? He's not leaving for the NFL. He's leaving for another team, right? Another college team. And it's not because he was treated bad here. It's just because Southern Miss can't afford to pay him what like an Ole Miss can, or or whoever. Take your pick. And the discrepancy between the mid majors and the Power Four teams has grown to such a degree that your mid majors, and at least in college football, and it's getting this way in the other sports as well, there's really no chance of them to compete at that level.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard Dari Nowkhah say this, and I like Dari Nowkhah for the most part. But he was on his radio show, and somebody said, well, if they fix the commercial thing or whatever, and he said, well, the ads aren't going anywhere, so you just need to get used to that. And I get it. He's a network guy. From their perspective, that's more dollars for them. But here's what it's going to take. It's going to take not you and me saying it, because we don't have any clout. It's going to take the Colin Cowherds and the Stephen A. Smiths and the big guns who are nationally recognized,
Mm-hmm.
instead of them getting on board, because we see this a lot, even in like political situations. Like I remember Stephen A. Smith just letting Kaepernick have it when he kneeled. And a few years later, he was kind of on board with the movement, right? So we see, and I'm not picking on Stephen A. Smith. What I'm saying is, we see these commentators kind of move towards what the move with the momentum or the grain of where people are going. But if these analysts would start standing up against this, we could save this sport. We could save the NIL situation. We could the transfer thing is ridiculous. I mean, it needs to go down to one transfer per career period, no matter what. You don't need to do the year delay like they used to have, all of that. But they do need to get. I mean, they need to allow one transfer per career, and that's it. That needs to happen, and NIL needs to get reined in a hurry. But that's what it's going to take, is the pundits who have weight standing up for this sport that we all love, that was truly unique, that is legitimately every year becoming less unique. But I don't want to end on a negative note. Like, I still love the sport. I still think the national championship game was highly entertaining. I was invested the whole time. So, it's not lost. It just used to be like basically an unbeatable sport, and it's starting to look more and more mortal. But all right, so let's end our college football season here at the Alumni House, because obviously the Alumni House itself, we don't have an off season. But let's end our college football season with a little fun. All right, so I have got 5 categories here, and I want you to just say, I just wrote down my answers as you were speaking. I just wrote down the first team that came to mind, or the first person that comes to mind, with 5 to 10 seconds of thought. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read my categories once, let you soak it in, then I'm going to circle back and I'm going to ask you each one of them. Okay?
All right, hang on a second. I'm not getting that one. All right.
All right. Most dominant team.
Hang on. My pen's got a thing on it.
Well, I don't even think you need to write them down, because I'm just going to tell them to you so you can hear them. And then I'm going to circle back and let you give me an answer. Because that's what I did, is after I wrote them down, I didn't look at it again during the show until just 5 minutes ago, and I literally just wrote my answers down. So, all right, most dominant team. Biggest surprise team. Best of the G6. Coach of the year, and most disappointing. All right, I'll give you about 10 seconds, then I'm going to circle back. I will say my answer, and then you say your answer, okay?
All right.
All right, so first we're going to go with most dominant team. We'll probably agree on this. Indiana, national champions.
Yeah, 16-0. A defense that just they didn't let anybody do anything all year long. I mean, they stopped Ohio State, who was one of the hottest teams. They stopped them cold. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it would be hard to disagree with that.
Yeah, so next category, biggest surprise team. My biggest surprise, I went back and forth for a minute on Miami and Texas A&M. I settled on Texas A&M, and the reason is because my surprise is not that they were good. My surprise is that they were one of the best teams in the country. I didn't think they would be one of the best teams in the country. Maybe the best team in the country all year. Also equally surprised that they lost at home in the playoffs after having such a consistent year. So Texas A&M is my biggest surprise.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit different direction here. I'm going to say LSU. Because they were projected to be a playoff team to start the season. Garrett Nussmeier's a front runner for the Heisman to start the season. And by midseason, they fired the coach. The team is not in disarray, but it's not a good situation there in Baton Rouge, and it was a train wreck, and then it comes out that you know Brian Kelly was kind of just coasting, and um, not really doing the things he should have been doing to build a winning pro. I think he thought he could just go there, it was just going to win, and so that's my biggest surprise team is LSU because
Yeah.
they felt like they had all this momentum. They won their first game under Kelly, like the first game of the season under Kelly when they beat Clemson, and Clemson that looked like a great win at the time. Clemson, that's another surprise team for the way their season went, but um, just by the end of the season, Nussmeier's not even playing anymore because they finally were just like, you're too hurt, just go sit down. So yeah, that's my biggest surprise.
Okay. I like it. Best of the G6 is easy for me. It's JMU. There's no question in my mind. They've been Division I for like 5 minutes, and all they do is win.
Yeah.
Google them. I'm just joking.
Yeah. I'll go with Tulane.
Okay. I mean, those were the only two you could really pick, but
Yeah. I mean, especially the way the season kind of ended for Tulane. In that fashion, so did James Madison because both teams, the coaches were leaving for another job, but they were sticking it out, and like John Summerall was sleeping like 2 hours a night. I don't know how he did it.
I don't know how he was doing that either, dude. Because every time I saw a clip of him, he'd be in Gainesville and then he'd be back in Tulane, and I'm like, what is this guy like? Does he have a time turner from Harry Potter? Like, what is he doing?
He had to be sleeping on airplanes and stuff like that. But I mean, he's carrying like 2 cell phones, and I wonder how many times he answered the phone saying Tulane coach, and it was like the Florida, like no coach.
Well, hopefully he never answered the phone saying Florida coach or Tulane coach, but
right,
but answered the Florida coach talking Tulane or whatever.
Yeah. But I just that was in the Tulane. I mean, they've kind of been building towards what they accomplished this year for a few years now. We'll see if they can maintain it. I mean, they've lost a coach. Now this is like I think the 3rd coach they've lost in the last few years. And they've just kind of continued to sustain that success and build more. So we'll see if that continues under their new. I forget who they hired for the next head coach, but we'll see if they can continue. Yes, that's right. That's why I forgot because
you wanted to.
Yeah,
you suppressed it.
Yeah, I suppressed that memory. May he have all the success he had at Southern Miss for Tulane. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they're a fun story too because I don't know who runs their social media department in their uniform game. They're in Tulane, but they do a really good job with their uniforms.
Yeah,
and spicing it up and stuff, and they're a fun program to watch from the outside. As a Southern Miss fan, it's hard for me to pull for them because they're a big rival and stuff, but. Yeah, outside of that, they're local,
sprinkling a little bit of that Creole seasoning on their uniforms.
Right.
All right. So, by the way, I just added one category that I'll tell you about in a minute, but I added it so that I could put my answer. So I cheated a little bit. Next is Coach of the Year. My Coach of the Year, the easy pick is Curt Cignetti. My Coach of the Year is Mario Cristobal for the reasons I laid out earlier, because I feel like he proved that he's every bit of the coach people thought he was, but he's a much better coach in the other areas than I think a lot of people, myself included, thought he was. So I'm going Mario Cristobal.
Okay. I'm going to go again, a little bit different route here. I'm looking to the G6 ranks here,
Okay.
and I'm gonna go with um, Charles Huff, who was at Southern Miss just for 1 year and is now at Memphis. But he went into a program that didn't win a single. Well, they won one game the previous year, and had them to within a game of going to the conference title. The conference title game against James Madison. Led them back to a bowl game. First time since the 22 season. 22 season that they've been in a bowl game. Had the team playing fairly well. The injury to Braylon Braxton, he hurt his knee. It was a lot more severe than was kind of let on. You could tell his mobility just wasn't there. But just by turning that program around and kind of getting it back to where, if you're a fan of Southern Miss or if you know the history of Southern Miss, it's where the program needs to be. Winning games, having winning seasons, because they've actually have done a lot in the sport of college football. They've taken down some giants along the way. They're one of those programs that it's more fun when they're good. And I'm not saying from a alumnus or fan perspective. It's just somebody who enjoys college football. There's programs that just when they're good, it makes the sport more fun.
Well, to be honest,
they're one
they
of
were
those.
Boise State before Boise State was Boise State, and the issue is they were Boise State when college football coverage was nowhere near what it has been over the last 20 years. So people don't remember that unless you were from that area, or like you or I, who had family members who went there, as we were growing up, and so we were aware of that. But that's the thing, is they really were. They were the the mid-major, as they used to be referred, that was Boise before Boise. Look, I don't want to poke holes in your pick. My only issue with Huff, I feel like I would have agreed with you, but he lost his last 3 regular season games. He totally checked out.
Did.
So that ruins it for me. I think he would have been if he would have finished the season the way, like, let's say Summerall finished this season. Hey, I got this new job, but I'm going to coach my butt off anyway. I would have been happy to give it to him. But hey, it's your pick, so all yours.
I really think part of that wasn't so much because I don't think he had that job offer until after the season.
Well, but that makes it worse, though, doesn't it?
Well, I really think more of it was the quarterback injury, because his mobility, the offense they ran, it really depended on Braxton being able to get out on the edges and run, and not necessarily run to like for a quarterback run, but to run to open up passing lanes and stuff like that, and open up deep shots. And he just couldn't move like he was used to. Couldn't escape the rush like he normally does. So that really limited what Southern could do offensively, and you could just tell it that those last 3 weeks they weren't the same team.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll accept that. All right, most disappointing. My most disappointing is Clemson. I thought this could have been their year, and I feel like you could make an argument for Penn State or Clemson. I ultimately chose Clemson because Clemson's in a conference we cover, Penn State's not, and that's kind of where I'm at on that. I think they were equally disappointing because I think I had them in the national championship against one another, and neither one of them even sniffed the playoff. So that's my most disappointing.
I'm going with Florida State because they opened the season with a huge win against Alabama, and they were really the hottest team in the country until that Virginia game, and then they lost in overtime, and they just never recovered. I mean, because they looked like they were going to be a playoff team. It looked like Norvell had turned the tide, and they were going to get back to their winning ways, and after that Virginia loss, like the wheels just completely fell off the bus, and they were what's y'all's big highway there in Florida.
You talking about I-75, I-10?
Yeah, they were on I-75 with the flashers on, and nobody was stopping to help them. Like they were just stranded.
Yeah.
I mean,
So for that
just
analogy, it would be I-10 because they're on I-10. But yeah, the
yeah,
Florida's
okay,
only got 3 major interstates because of the shape of the state. It's I-10, I-75, and I-95. You could count I-4, but it's not very long. So
right. So yeah, they're on I-10 with the flashers, and nobody stopping to help them. It was just it was something like I if you had told me after week 3 with the way they were playing, it's not going to end the way you think it is. Like they're not even going to make a bowl game. I'd have been like, oh, you're crazy. Yeah, like they're just playing too
yeah,
well.
I think they were just a paper tiger. I think they fooled all of us because I thought the same thing you and I think most everyone else thought, that they were legitimately, they had turned it around. But I think what really happened was the infusion of Malzahn's offense just completely caught Alabama and DeBoer off guard. Because after that, they weren't really impressive. I mean, they were impressive for a team that won 2 games the year before. But after that, they weren't really impressive. So I kind of look back on it, and I totally understand someone saying they're the most disappointing. I'm not refuting your pick. I'm saying that I think I look back on it, and I think it was more that they were really great pretenders that were fooling everyone, rather than they were a great team that lost their momentum. That's kind of how I feel looking back on it. Because
we all know Norvell.
What's that?
Not Norvell. No, we all know Malzahn. If he doesn't do anything else, he beats Alabama. I mean,
well, yeah, but he was beating Saban's Alabama. But the thing is, like,
yeah,
but with Florida State, I mean, we talked about this a lot. I think Florida was a much better. I don't know how many wins they had. 4 wins, I guess. A much better 4-win team than the average 4-win team in terms of talent, not execution, but talent. But Florida State ended their season and did not make a bowl because they lost to a 4-win Florida team badly. Like, it wasn't close. You know what I mean? Who was coachless, by the way. And that kind of is a microcosm of the season for me to Florida State. Is when you looked at those 2 teams at the end of the year, I felt like most people felt like Florida would win that game. But it was because Florida State just had such a weird year, man. I think they were determined to make it better than it was last year, and it was. They did win 5 games. But that's not the Florida State standard. I mean, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So
I think everybody was surprised that at the end of the season, Norvell is still there. But
it's because of his buyout. His buyout's still huge.
Yeah. 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 So I was going to say, like, I was listening to, I don't know if it was On3 or Josh Pate, but they were talking about how that it was just more expensive for Florida State to change than it was just to keep going, and hoping he can turn things around.
Yeah, well, and the issue is they're kind of up a little bit of a creek because his buyout at the end of next season, the way his contract is structured, is going to be almost as much as it is right now. So if he doesn't win 8 or 9 games next year, they're going to be in real trouble. They're still going to wind up owing him. I think right now they owe him like somewhere in the high 50s. I think they'll owe him in the mid 50s, maybe barely low 50s at the end of the season. So that's the trouble, is like, yeah, they're in a situation where they need to just stick with him, but they need him to succeed.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't, they're not just losing a year, they're losing another year on top of it, probably. So
yeah, you got to wonder, like, how long the Florida State faithful are going to put up with
Well, I don't think the Florida State
because
faithful are putting up with it, but I mean, you have to look at it realistically. Look, Florida State.
well, if there were new and season tickets that are putting up with it, I mean that's
well, no,
you
but
know.
no, but what I'm saying is this: Florida State is by no means poor, but they're not. They don't have an endless supply of money. They're not in the top 5 or top 10 wealthiest universities, and that's not a knock on Florida State. The majority of their graduates are musicians, are professional musicians, and educators. Things like that. I say the majority. I mean that those are their most successful programs. It's education and music. And I say this as a professional musician. I'm not knocking that, but I those aren't largely you don't have an alumni base that's got tons and tons of millionaires. In contrast, if you go down to the road to their rival Florida, their successful programs are cancer research and law. Those are their best 2 programs. Well, I worked for a guy named Fred Levin in Pensacola who donated something like $12 million to the law school and got the law school named after him. That's one alumni. So my point is this: Florida State is not a poor school, but their alumni base is not what a lot of the other ones are, and so I think they are looking at it realistically from the standpoint of if we pay this buyout, who can we go and get, and how much does that eat into our NIL money? So that's why I say I don't think they're putting up with it. I think there's a difference in supporting their team through thick and thin and putting up with it. I think they realize they understand what the score is. They have to be careful about this, and the next contract they let a coach sign better be structured better than the way Norvell's was. I think that's where Florida State is at. Because I know a lot of Florida State fans and alum, and I think they're complacent, but I also think they understand we have to be smart about this, because if we're not, we could cause trouble for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
All right. So the category that I added, and I'll give you a second to come up with your answer, but I added this because I wanted to talk about this for a minute. And he didn't coach enough games to make him coach of the year, so I don't think he would have been eligible. But the last story is coolest story of the year, and that is easily for me, it's Pete Golding at Ole Miss. Dude comes in after all of the Lane Kiffin drama. The 2.5 horse race with I say 2.5 because I don't think anybody really ever thought he was going to leave or stay at Oxford. But the race between Florida and LSU to get Lane Kiffin, which ultimately ended in him being in Baton Rouge. Well, Pete Golding all the while is sitting there, and they say, "Hey, you're going to be our new head coach, not our interim, and we're going to have you navigate the fact that Lane Kiffin wants these coaches to come with him now, but you're going to have to deal with all that drama while you're navigating the playoffs." And they came within a questionable, I won't say bad, I think I said bad last time, but I'll say they came within a questionable call going the other way of playing for a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So congratulations to Pete Golding for that.
My boss showed me a video. He was Pete Golding was in Brookhaven, Mississippi, yesterday.
We had an uncle there.
He showed me this video from inside the school at Brookhaven High. There's a local doctor there. His son has autism, and he was like, "Can I get a Go Tigers?" And Pete was like, "No, sir, you can't." And he said, "No, guys." But it was funny. I was just like, "Okay, that's pretty funny." I mean, he's just deadpan. No, I'm sorry, no, you can't. But
when was the last time you were over there near Uncle Carlton's house?
Considering I don't really remember where it was, it's been a while. I think it's by the theater. So Huh?
I just know it was in
Yeah,
or near Brookhaven.
yeah. I'm there quite a bit, but I not remember exactly where it is. I'm thinking it's around the theater over there, so it's still been a little while since I've been
Well, the reason I was asking
close
is
to his
I was
house. But
wondering if that old tour bus they had was still sitting out there in the lawn. Because the last time I was there, I was probably 14 or 15, and Uncle Carlton had been dead a few years, and it was still there.
hmm
So, um,
yeah, I think it's moved, but
okay. Well,
yeah.
I didn't know, because I don't know whatever happened to that property. So, just to shed a little bit of light for the nobody who cares out there, we had our grandfather and uncle had a pretty successful Southern gospel group. Well, my uncle, I guess our uncle was more of the recording engineer, and I don't think he was actually in the group, but
Yeah, no,
but
he was a singer. He was
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But he also did their recording and stuff. But they were pretty successful and had some run-ins with Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. But they, for years, there was a big old tour bus that they used to use that was out in his lawn. And when he said Brookhaven, that's what I thought of. So, but anyway, well, good season, good list. Oh wait, hold on, your coolest story.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I mean, the Pete Golding thing that is cool, but I'm gonna go with the John Summerall sleeping 2 hours a night.
If that, right?
I mean, working. Yeah, working 2 full-time jobs, trying to make sure 2 lanes stay stocked and loaded.
Well, he
Trying to make
definitely
sure
left his
Florida's.
program the right way, right? Like that's how you're.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how. That's the blueprint. If you're going to leave a program on how to do it,
Yeah.
and we'll see. Obviously,
I mean,
if he's
he
going
would.
to be successful at Florida, but you know,
Right. I mean, he even donated like what $100,000 to the school like before we left. So I mean, yeah, he definitely was going out the right way. But just the whole thing, just I'm sure like when their playoff run ended, he was sad it was over, but at the same time he was like, okay, I can breathe a little easier now. I can sleep a full
yeah.
night. You know,
Also, I don't know if you could call it a playoff run. It was a playoff appearance.
well, but
I think to qualify for a run, you have to win at least a game.
yeah, but the run up to the playoff and because he was at that point, he had already been. I think before the championship game, he had already been hired by Florida for
Yeah.
the AAC
you're
championship game or American. Yeah, so he had been living that life for about a month by the time he finally went full time to Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really cool story there.
All right. Well, been a fun season. We still have a handful of Alumni House episodes, although I have been not good about keeping us on track with that. But so just a little update. As the college football season comes to the end, Alumni House is not going anywhere. We are going to adjust our schedule, and Quacker is going to be doing some solo episodes. I'm going to be cutting my appearances back a little bit during this part of the season in hopes that once we get into football season next year, I'll be ready to ramp right back in, or maybe into August, ramp right back into the same schedule, or maybe, who knows, maybe more than we did this season. But we're not going anywhere. We're still going to do team episodes. You're just not going to see team episodes as often during the basketball and football season. So any final thoughts? We talked through a lot about the college football season, but any final thoughts as we say goodbye to the 2025 college football season and Chris in the off season?
Yeah, when you'd asked for the season superlatives, I had went a different route because I really wasn't sure what you were asking for. And one of the things I'd come up with was, it was a season of first. And And Indiana became the first team since the 1894 Yale team to go 16-0. So, that's quite a
That
while
is
back.
impressive.
Um, they also became the first new team to win a national championship since the 1996 Florida Gators.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So every championship since then has been a team that's won one before.
Yeah.
Oh. I guess I guess there's a technicality in that though, right? Because didn't Auburn not really win one before? Was it
no.
there's
I
not?
think
I know they had one, but wasn't it not nationally recognized or something?
no. I think they had one that was. It was in the 50s. I think it was like 56 or somewhere in there. But
So yeah, so that I guess that means what, the 93 Florida State Seminoles and the 95 or 96 Gators were the last two teams to win their first until Indiana.
yeah, I would have thought 97 with Tennessee, but I guess Tennessee won one back in the day at some point
Oh, did they? I forgot about Tennessee.
because they were the first BCS champion.
They were, yeah.
Um, Indiana has its first Heisman Trophy winner in program history.
Mm-hmm.
First time being ranked number one. Of course, first national championship. Vandy had their first Heisman candidate in the history of their program. And then the first time we've seen a coach get hired away from his team while they're getting ready for the playoffs, in the way that it went with Lane Kiffin to Ole Miss. I mean, we saw, John Summerall and I'm blanking on the Bob, the coach that was at JMU.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they both got hired away, but they were allowed to stay and coach their programs where Lane fought to try to stay and coach, but Ole Miss wouldn't let him do it.
Right.
So that was kind of messy there. It's worked out for LSU with their transfer portal haul and stuff. They look like they're going to be a team to reckon with next year. It seems like it may work out for Ole Miss. I don't know who their whole staff is going to be yet. I don't know if they have everybody hired in place or not. But I really like Pete Golding. He's actually from just about an hour from where I live. He grew up in Hammond, Louisiana. That's actually where I go watch most of my movies and stuff because they have a nicer theater. Of course, we don't have a theater at all here, but it was like what they were talking about Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator for Miami. He's actually from Louisiana as well, from Clinton, Louisiana. He played private school ball. He played quarterback for in high school, and I think he played. I know he played college ball. I don't remember where, but I forgot he was offensive coordinator at Southern Miss for a while. Until I was reading something on one of the local Mississippi high school. There's a guy who started a page where he covers Mississippi high school sports and stuff, and he was talking about that. I was like, I forgot he was there. So that's kind of like the first things that I had.
Okay.
Then I had like a seasonal change. And of course, change is nothing new to football, but it seemed like it just slammed college football like a semi truck hitting a gnat this year. You had 15 head coaches fired, which I think is probably the most we've ever seen fired in one season. The rule changes like the faking injuries costing the timeout. Just the change in landscape of college football. We talked about the transfer portal and rev share and NIL and how that just continues to reshape college sports, and maybe not for the better, right? I mean, it just I don't have a problem with college athletes getting paid, but we have to figure something out.
Yeah, it's not for the better right now. I think it can be for the better, but it's certainly not right now. So for what it's worth, it was 98, not 97, because 97 was a split between Nebraska and Michigan.
Right.
When Woodson won the Heisman.
That's when Peyton. That was Peyton lost to
Well, he lost to Florida, which
Michigan lost to Michigan.
Yeah, but he also lost to Florida because he never lost Florida or never beat Florida. They lost to Florida that year. He went 0-4 against Florida. So
but he had a chance to win the championship. His final that year and they lost to Michigan. I forgot about that. Yeah,
right. But the reason I brought up the Florida game was because that was their second loss, which took them out of any conversation of, that is why it became a split, because I think Michigan also had a loss or something. It's been a long time since that game. And I'm recalling this all by memory. I just know it was a split between, of course, back then there was a Bowl Alliance champion and an AP champion, and that's how you would get a split. And that was one of the issues with the BCS. They brought in the BCS to do away with splits. The problem was you still had AP, who also recognized their own champion, which is how you got in, 2003, you had LSU and USC. And I don't know which one was which, but then in 2004 there should have been a split national championship between USC and Auburn, but there wasn't, because Auburn finished the season undefeated and didn't get recognized anywhere, which is still crazy to me. But so Tennessee claims 6. Okay, I'm gonna name these off, and then I'm gonna call BS on 2 of them. All right, so Tennessee claims 38, 40, 50, 51, and 67, and 98. Shame on you, Tennessee, for claiming 38 and 40, because nobody in the U.S. cared about college football in 38 and 40. Not because it was the 30s, because 1939 is when World War II started in earnest, and 1940, everyone was looking across. I mean, European sports at this point are already suspended. The U.S. wasn't in the war, obviously, what everyone knows, until December of 41. But shame on you for claiming national championships when nobody else cared about college football in 1938 and 1940. So,
did Alabama claim championships in those years too? Because
I don't think so. Because I don't think they were ever good at football until the 60s. But I don't know.
I had like one more category I had added, and that was a season of disappointment. And it's team or player not living up to expectations. There's plenty of disappointment to go around the season. Some of the lights, we talked about Florida State starting out so hot and then just completely falling apart. Florida, Penn State, LSU having high expectations and firing their coaches.
Yeah, South Carolina
halfway through the seasons. South Carolina, absolutely. Teams not being able to sustain and close out the ACC. I mean, it seemed like nobody wanted to win the ACC this year. Virginia, Georgia Tech.
I thought Virginia was a playoff team for sure.
Yeah. Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Pitt were all amongst teams who had a chance to go to the playoff. All they had to do was just win out. And they all found a way to blow it. I mean, can you imagine Virginia, who's had some success in football, but has never been considered a power?
Yeah, let's be honest, they're more Indiana than they are Alabama.
Yeah, can you imagine what kind of momentum that could have given that program if they could have just gotten to the playoff this year?
Yep.
I mean, I'm not saying they could have went on a run like Miami did, but just getting the playoff. I mean, that you're one, it helps with your money, right? Like the money you make off of making the playoffs and stuff. But two, it ups your prestige to the program. We've been a playoff team. But if you come here, of course this will help with recruiting. Look what we did without you here. We get you on campus, get you involved. You can help us take that next step.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say it again. expand to 16. We already know that's going to happen. That's not a question of if; it's a question of when. But go ahead and expand to 16 and let every conference champion in 6 at-large bids. It's what should happen. It might happen. 16 will happen, but the every conference champion should be in until the inevitable split between 1AA or 1A and major college football has, the split that we know is coming. Until
the
that
Power
point,
4 mid-majors, yeah.
Yeah, but until that actually happens, get representatives from every conference in the playoff. Otherwise, why do you have every conference? Because there's no other sport that has a bunch of different divisions or conferences that doesn't send a representative. Just college football. So, all right. Did you have any more in that category?
No, that was it. That 3 was kind of hard to come up with that.
Well, I'm kind of glad we had the misunderstanding because I like those, and I think that's a good way to kind of say goodbye to it. So I'm glad that I did not do a good job communicating it, and you spent the time to do that because that actually is a great way, I think, to send it off. They're nice little nuggets, for the season. So that honestly kind of a year in review type thing. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for now our second full college football season, and really our first that we've done in earnest until December. We had a pretty consistent showing, and we got to do videos. So you guys got to see our ugly faces every week. But this has been a lot of fun. We plan to continue doing this next year. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you guys for putting up with our silliness and the fact that we acknowledge this show is not for everybody because we're gonna go off on tangents and talk about football history or our family for a minute because this is our show and we can do what we want. So. But we appreciate you guys sticking with it on that. And, so that's all I've got. Quacker, if you don't have anything else, thank you guys for a wonderful season. And just a reminder, we're not going anywhere. We're just saying goodbye to college football. So with that being said, he is Quacker. I have been Matt. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you on the next installment of the Alumni House podcast.